Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to yet another on-demand web scraping tutorial, and this time I'm gonna help Sahil Sahu to scrape infinite scroll page from pdfdrive.com, and we have this specific book HTML page where we can see kind of similar books, and if we want more similar books we can click this button like download more similar PDFs, and in return we'll get another bunch of data basically. So why I'm calling this infinite scroll, because it doesn't really matter like if this kind of dynamic content downloading is happening on scroll down event or on button click event. So from the technical perspective of how this works internally, it doesn't really matter that much. So so before we're gonna be writing the scraper, first let me explain what's going on under the hood basically. So I just want to invoke my developer tools here by pressing Ctrl+Shift+I and go into the network tab. So what we got over here, so if I just click this load similar files, we got this. So this AJAX API call basically. So here is the request URL we're making request to, and we're making the post request, which is important. And also what's important regarding the post request, that we have this sort of a form data that goes along with the post request, and in return we're getting this like data only kind of chunks of data basically, which are really easy to scrape eventually. So this is kind of it. And as far as I already have a tutorial on how to do this using requests in Beautiful Soup, in this video I would like to show how to do this using Python SCRAPY framework. So if you're interested in this, in learning how to scrape this like dynamic content pages, please feel free to follow this. And just one more thing before I start, like many of you guys asking me to make tutorials on Selenium or SCRAPY Selenium or whatever Selenium related libraries, and I always tell in the commentaries that I'm not doing this because it violates my life principles, programming principles, and things like that. So if this was a Selenium tutorial, then you would need to just if this is infinite scroll, you need to mimic this browser infinite scroll, or in this particular case you would need to mimic this button click. And this is really weird because there is the way more simple way of achieving the same result. You can just reverse engineer this API calls and do things really faster and in a way more clean. So now let me just go to my folder. So here in the SCRAPY tutorials GitHub repository, I've created this AJAX folder, and I'm not calling this infinite scroll or dynamic content. I just call this AJAX because that's how we're supposed to be going through. So this file ajax.py is where we're supposed to be writing our code. So before I start, I would explain what the script is doing in particular. So I say like script to scrape AJAX data to scrape dynamically. Did I write dynamically right? Sorry guys, hold on a sec. Yeah, sorry, just check this out, and I just checked this out in the Google Translate. So to scrape dynamically rendered content fed by AJAX post request. In this case, this is exactly the post request, so I can even quote this. So here, just let me prettify the layout slightly a bit, and I would also like to say by, just to give some sort of a signature to this code, by code monkey me, for those of you who don't know yet, that I'm also known as Code Monkey King. Okay, so this is it. Okay, so now let's get to the code basically. So the very first thing to consider, we need to import some packages. And first we need to import SCRAPY. Then from scrapy.crawler we need to import crawler process to actually being able to run this Python spider, to run the SCRAPY spider from within a Python script. Also we need to say from scrapy.http we need to import a form request method. So form request, which is like the easiest way of making HTTP post requests, that where you need to pass some sort of a data in the request body. So like SCRAPY request object is quite complicated, and there is no an easy way of making post requests, just like to post request just like you do this within the request library, say. So like this form request is the easiest of existing basically. I would probably like to import JSON to bring the response, and it's kind of enough for now, I guess. So now let's define the spider class basically. So let's call this infinite or dynamic AJAX 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 data scraper. I don't know how to call this. Okay, let's leave it as AJAX data scraper. So here I define the class. I call this AJAX scraper, and it would inherit from scrapy.spider, which is the general purpose spider or crawler. Then we need to provide the scraper or spider, call it however you want, name, and name would be equal, let's call it simply AJAX, and that's it. So now we need to provide the URL we're supposed to be crawling through, and basically the URL would always be the same, because if we have a look at the headers, so we always got this URL without anything there, so just this one, and we won't even be scraping this particular URL endpoint, because we don't literally need that. So we'll just go through this kind of stuff. And okay, so we'll make use of this URL, and we'll call this a base URL in this case. So base URL, and the base URL will be equal to this stuff. Okay, and then the most important part here, we need to provide the form data parameters. So I just grab all these guys here, and here I can say like data, form data payload. Now why this is called form data payload, form parameters, and why we're using form request. So usually the most widely encountered case of using the post request probably is when we are dealing with a submitting a form. So like say username and password, and then we just click like OK, login, submit, things like that. So that's the way to make actually a post request, and the data that we have entered within the form is known as the form data. But that's just from the GUI perspective, so graphical interface, and from the user perspective. That's why they call this a form data. But actually, the form data is some sort of a data that is passed along with the request body. So in case if we're making a post request, this sort of a data is going along with a post request body in particular. So that's how it's done on the lower level. So but this kind of SCRAPY HTTP form request method allows us to use a more high level way of So they call this like submitting forms, but literally we're not submitting forms. But what I want to say that on the HTTP request level, sorry guys, so on the HTTP request level there is literally no difference between form submission and making this post request to fetch the data from the API. So it might sound a bit weird for those of you who is not familiar with the HTTP protocol itself, but just trust me, I'm not lying, because you know, like that's exactly the same technology used under the hood basically. So we're making just the post request and we're just passing some data within. So just in order not getting confused like by this name, like why this is called the FormData and why this method is called form request. So you might wonder what kind of form are you talking about. So I hope my explanation makes things slightly bit more clear. So here I just create the params variable and I just paste all the parameters we kind of got here, and probably I would be starting from the very initial element, and then I would be incrementing by 20, because here if we just do this again basically, and okay, so here just filter this by the AJAX request. So the next AJAX request, so here we already got this start with 30, so 10 plus 20 would be 30. So we will start with the very initial page, because you know it did show 10 elements by default, and then it just the first post request added 10 more elements here, and the next post request already kind of added 20 more books here. So I guess we would start with the index of 0 here. So it's kind of some sort of indexing for the data they for the data entries we're fetching from the API. So let me just provide the proper formatting of this. Okay, so I don't even need to make this a string, so we don't have any page count over here. And the very important part is actually to have name is actually to have the name of the book. So we're now at the URL related to the book of this Have Girlfriend by Cheatin' Baggett, right? So here we can download the PDF, but it's not the case. So the point here that by pressing this download more PDFs, we're not downloading just the whatever PDFs, but only the similar PDFs. And to download only the similar PDFs here, obviously we need to provide the name of the particular book of the URL of where we're currently at. So just to bear this in mind as well. And before I started creating the crawling logic itself, basically, first I would provide the main driver here. So I would say if name equals to main. In this case, I want to run the scraper, and I could have also used actually the headers, so I'll probably go for that as well. So let me just try to grab the user agent here, so copy. To be honest, I'm not sure if the form request loads using headers, but I guess it loads actually. So I just created a process variable that would be equal to crawler process. So I'm creating the instance of crawler process, and then I can say like process.crawl and the AJAX scraper as an argument. So before that, let me just provide the custom headers, so to free up my my buffer actually. So headers and paste, boom. Okay, so I'm using this AJAX scraper as the argument for the crawl method, and finally I need to say process.start. Okay, and now it's time to provide what is known as the crawler's entry point. So we have a standard, let's say def start requests method that would only take the self parameter, and that's it. And this start request method is a default crawler's entry point of the SCRAPY spider, which we're inheriting from the base class we're inheriting from. So here, just for the testing purposes, at the moment, I will just make so. I would say mimic AJAX call. So here I can say simply yield and the form request. And the form request, so I need to provide the URL here that would be equal to self.base URL. So the URL is always static in this case, so this kind of stuff here. And then also let's provide our headers that would be equal to self.headers. And also the most important thing, we need to provide the parameter or the argument that is called FormData. So this kind of data, so FormData parameter is very important here. So it would be equal to self.params, and this dictionary would be automatically converted to the string, and will go as post request response body. So all this stuff is going automatically under the hood there. So okay, also forgot this little quote. Okay. Now seems to be just fine. So FormData, and the very last thing, we need to provide the callback function because it's an asynchronous request provided by the Twisted Internet library that is used within the SCRAPY framework. So callback, I call this self.parse, and this is it. So from now on I can provide this parse response method, and here I can simply say def parse, and the parse method would contain two arguments, the self instance followed by the response object. So I just want to print the response.body, response.text, and you know, like, even I don't even want to print this. Instead, I would I would like just to store this locally to use to use it in order to extract some data from it. So also I need to say from scrapy.selector import selector. So using this selector method, so this selector constructor, I would be able to parse data from the local HTML copy to avoid torturing the target site. So here the code I'm supposed to be writing right now, I'll command this later on, but I'll leave it just for the history actually. So write HTML response to local file, and I can say like with open, and here I would like to use res.html. I want to write the file stream as file and simply say f.write and response.text. Okay, now hold my breath and try to run this stuff actually. So I just type python 3 ajax.py. Okay, end of line while scanning string literal. So okay, I got another quote here. Start 0. Okay, if I got a comma. Okay, something else is wrong. Let me see. While obtaining start requests. So bytes must request a Unicode string, got integer. So well, probably I need to convert this. Oops. To convert this one to integer, and let's try. Okay, now it seems like it worked, and we got our response.html. So let's have a look. So it seems like we did obtain some data. So let's have a look at this particular response within the browser to make sure. Okay, perfect. So this is the data we've just scraped. It has I guess here would be 20 elements, so like 1, 2. Okay, let me just inspect this element. So we'll be scraping all the data from here. So file, well, let's consider this file, right? So I copy and view page source. Yeah, so it's 19 or 20, so yeah, basically 19 elements. So we will start with a count equals to 20 next response. Okay, so we'll handle this a bit later on. So our like pagination, infinite scroll, dynamic content rendering logic, would call it however we want. It's all literally the same from the HTTP request perspective. So this would be handled over in here. So we would be making this loop, this form request, this literally HTTP post request within the loop, in a range from 0 to whatever kind of number of this index shifting from, so every page. So from 0 to 20 would be the page 1, from 20 to 40 would be the page 2, and so on. So I don't know how many pages there are available is available there, but so we'll crawl through quite a few just to demonstrate how this works. Okay, but for now we actually don't need to crawl anything anymore, and I can just debug this parse method. So if I just say like AJAX scraper, and I'm passing .parse, and I'm passing the AJAX scraper instance, the first argument to match this self parameter, and I fake the response object because we're not gonna be using any we're not gonna be working within the response object context at the moment. Instead, I just want to so local HTML content. So we need to define the variable to store the local HTML content. I call this just content. This would be the empty Python string, and now we need to load local HTML file to extract data. So I say with open and response.html. I want to read the file stream this time as f, and for line in f.read. I just want to populate the content by line, and eventually I want to init SCRAPY selector to be actually able to extract the data. So I call this response, I call this variable response just like this one. So we're just kind of faking this response variable with this one, and it would be equal to selector, and the text would be equal to the content. So if we just now print our response, I hope to see the SCRAPY selector object instance being printed in the terminal in return. So let's have a look. Yeah, exactly what I said. So perfect. And now we can say like response.text and so on. So now we actually need to provide our data extraction logic. So data extraction logic, and I just create a variable called features, and here we'll be storing all the data we need actually. So the first thing to consider would be the title basically. So I'm also wondering, so this should be a user list, right? And so every list item, right? So we have this on click, but well, probably we have the only user list available, I guess. So let me just quickly check that. Yeah, the only user list and the list items. Yeah, so it's a really simple structure. So it's incredibly easy to provide the selectors over here. So I just want to say like, okay, let me see this one more time. So first we need to extract the title and inspect. So within the list item we are looking for what exactly? Is this within a link actually? Okay. Just wondering where is this text being located. So have girlfriend. Oops. Oh, so just within this kind of a tag. So we just need to extract all the text recursively. So let's start. So the title would be equal to I guess we could have loop before doing this. We could have actually loop over book. Let's say call this cards, and I can say for card in response.css, and we're looking for all the list items here. Okay, so and now we can say we can search already within the particular list item selector. So not response.css, but instead card.css, and obviously I'm using the CSS selector as my favorite because I don't really like the XPath. Okay, so here let's try to find an A tag and space followed by the star, double colon, and text means to try and extract all the text recursively from this A tag, and also get all elements. And now let's see. Okay, also before proceeding, I just want to print JSON.dumps. I'm using JSON.dumps to print the Python dictionary features. So features and indentation equals to 2 spaces, just to make it more user friendly actually. Okay, so now we got the title. The title is fine, but we got lots of unnecessary kind of new line characters here. So let's try to get rid of those actually, right? We don't need to strip anything. Yeah, we just need to get rid of those new line characters. So in order to do that, we can simply say let's call this text dot get dot replace, and the new line character is to be replaced with the nothing here, so don't need this get all anymore. Yes, like this, and don't forget the list comprehension syntax, so for text in this list. Okay, let's have a look. And also we need to get rid of the empty elements, so list filter none and dislike. Okay, perfect. So okay, hold on a sec. Yeah, but another thing to consider, we actually need to join this list. Let's try to join by empty string for a while, so join. Okay. Okay, yeah, it seems like the title is pretty fine now. So help girlfriend by cheating baguette. Yeah, perfect. So now I like this really. So let's move on basically, and the next thing to consider would be this data. So pages. So let's have a look. So all these are kind of spans. So file info. Okay, pages, year. Okay, so yeah, as far as they have a named classes, it would be extremely easy to extract them. So copy. So I can say like title. So well, actually before go into yeah, pages. So actually before ever go into pages, I would also like to extract the URL for this page in particular, and here again we can simply say like car.css, just try to find the A tag and the attribute of hrefs and trying to get one, and also would probably need to append some sort of a base URL to this, so revolution HTML, and here I can say this pdfdrive.com copy, so just to make it clear, like this. So I guess I don't need this slash as well, so let's have a look. PDF drive. So I just want to test this link if it really works, so just copy and go into the browser and try to paste this in to see if it works. Yeah, perfect, it works. So yeah, and now we can go with the pages. So okay, so let me just have a look. So this span fi page count, so card.css, and we're looking for a span tag with a class equals to this, and we want to extract the text and dot get the first and the only element basically. So let's see if we will extract this. So number of pages is now been extracted, so just perfect. And then the year, so let's try to consider the year as well. So year, so this would be literally the same, with the only difference that the selector is slightly different. So instead of page count, I would make use of the year. Yeah, okay, save. Now let's check the year. Okay, the year has a period as well. So what else? Now we got this file size, okay, and copy. So so size and Control X here. I will make use of this size. So didn't I miss anything? Yeah, perfect. And now downloads. So if I hit, okay, so okay, so just change this class and hopefully to get the downloads. Okay, so right, okay, now got the downloads, perfect. What else do we got there? So this seems to be the description, I guess. File info. So, and now let's try to make use of all the B tags and try to extract the data recursively. So let's call this description, and I say card.css and div class file info. So div class equals to file info. Now we're recursively trying to look for all the B tags and trying to extract tags from them. Probably not even recursively, I guess. And get all. Save. But hold on a second. It will probably extract all the existing ones. So I did something wrong. Okay, let me just do this like it works. Okay, so something is wrong here. So, well, maybe this B tag is not. Oh, it's not within there. So let's try instead just to get rid of this part completely. And is this? Yeah, it seems like so. No child elements within the B tag, so no need for that space followed by the star to extract recursive elements. Okay, description, or maybe it makes sense. I don't know. It's slightly a bit strange, to be honest. Yeah, but it's not yet right. It's just extracting some weird stuff, I'm not sure. So this div ends up over in here. Oh, he takes this div, or I'm just trying to. Okay guys, so I have no idea why I can't extract this as well. Let's try to look for this div class file, right? So just copy this one and trying to specify the parent class as well. So css div and class equals to file, right? So let's have a look if it's different. So I don't understand why this. It seems like all the same data were in here. I'm just really wondering why this is happening. So card, I'm looking within the each card. So is this all the same author? Yeah, it's all the same author. Well, okay, but okay, what if I just hold on? I just need to make sure that I'm searching within the right place. So I just try to take all the text from this div. Okay, so we also got the pages here and revolution. Italian, what is this? Seems like I did grab the description, but above that we get something else. Okay, so let's try the very last one over in here. So revolution. So revolution 2020, love, corruption, ambition. So this seems to be the description, this one. And what is this Italian stands for? Oh, Italian Revolution. Okay, so we need everything after the word downloads, basically. We could have distinguished by this actually, but I'm still wondering why it doesn't find the proper thing if we're trying to look using the B tag. Maybe it's not considered as a tag actually. This is possible, by the way. So I don't know why exactly this is happening, but for some reason it doesn't seem to make much sense. Okay, so if this go this like so, let's just try to extract our description slightly different way. So do I want to filter? So let's just trying to join all these elements into a string. Save. Okay. And now take everything after the downloads words, so I can simply split by downloads and take the very last one. That's it. Okay, Italian Revolution. Okay, perfect. And also I would love to actually replace the new line characters because we don't really need them. Okay, so businessman said okay, Revolution 2020. Yeah, now it seems like the descriptions are fine. Oh, okay, also we can strip this along the way, strip. Okay, and now it seems to be just pretty nice. Perfect. Okay, so probably the very last thing to extract from here is the image URL. So seems like the only image, and we got the source there. So let's open this. Let's open this source. Can I open it in a new tab? Copy, paste. I'm just wondering regarding. Yeah, so this is just a thumbnail. Okay, Okay, nevertheless, so we can still, just for clarity, we can still extract this. So I say the thumbnail, and I say like card.css, and we're looking for image tag, and we want to get the attribute of source, and oh, sorry, no text, so just like this, dot get, save. Okay, yeah, now we got our thumbnails as well. So perfect. So from now on, what we can do actually, so just in order to store this, I would need to yield the features. So here I just say like store output to, well, let's store it to CSV file actually. So I can just simply say yield and features, and this is kind of it. So we don't need this stuff. It was data extraction debugging, by the way. So now we can uncomment our scraper back, and now we don't need this local copy anymore, and from now on this response would be the actual response we're dealing with. So okay, now let's try to yeah, in order to store the data to CSV, I also need to provide some custom settings here. So I can simply say like custom settings, and this would be Python dictionary, and I define the fit format that would be equal to CSV, and the feed URI, let's call this books.json. Okay, so now let's try to run this again. So why JSON? It should be CSV, but still, regardless of extension, this should be the CSV. Okay, it seems like we got our data extracted here. So I just want to open this in the LibreOffice to make sure it looks like properly. Can you show me how to create? Thanks for a commentary, and I'll just answer after finishing recording this video. By the way, guys, before I forgot to say, you know, like really lots of your commentaries are passing along, so I can't even see them because YouTube is not always notifying me for some reason. Okay, so did I? Oh, I just need to, yeah, it's not, okay. So just in order to actually I run this again to I changed the extension, so now the file should be CSV. Okay, so just to make sure that I did read your commentary, or if you have some important requests regarding creating on-demand web scraping tutorial or something like that, so please feel free to mail me to phraseoff.4.people@gmail.com. You always can find my email within the about section of the channel page on YouTube. So please feel free to mail me if something is if there is something important, so to make sure that I obviously respond actually. So here is our CSV. We got the title, URL, pages, year, size, downloads, description, and all the data being populated. So this is just perfect. And now the very last thing to consider in order to make it kind of production ready, maybe not the best ever word, but still. So now we need to loop over the range of pages, but don't get confused by when I say the range of pages, because you might wonder what kind of pages callback again is talking about, because we don't have kind of pages here. Instead we have this infinite scroll and load more similar PDFs button. So by saying page, I actually mean the 19 elements, these 19 book entries that kind of fit the page actually. That fit the page. I'm sorry. This was my wife walking around here. Okay, so that's why I call this page. So actually, by saying page, I mean yet another event of kind of like mimic to click this button, mimic if as if I was clicking this button, and then just this post request is going on and so on. So I say like loop over page range, but here I would say it's like, or okay, just to avoid those questions like what did you mean when you said page, so loop over page range, loop over bulk books, bulk images. Okay guys, better just let me put this page in quotes, because it's not literally a page but rather a list of a next list of the next feed. So just I don't know, I was just explaining this, so I hope it's kind of just fine. So I'm just telling this for those who kind of don't ever watch the videos, but just blindly grabbing the code and trying to make use of it without understanding what's going on under the hood, without watching the video, without understanding actually that this code is not like made for you to grab it and to use, even though it's possible, but just it's rather for clarity and educational purposes, just to make it clear how the things work. So just to bear that in mind. So I can say simply like for let's call this page still. So for page in range from 0, because literally these are the pages, they just following one by another in an infinite scroll, but these are the pages too. So from 0, well, let's say to, I don't know, 4, so we will crawl through the 3 pages. And now, so this level would be right over in here, obviously. So now we need to calculate this shift index, this okay, calculate, let's call this next book, or let's call this next page index, so next pages data, next pages starting data index. So what I want to say that here within the parameter, so just to I will better just show you this. So for now I will get rid of this request, so we're not going to be doing any requests at this moment. So I can simply say like self dot params and start, and it would be equal to page dot multiplied to page multiplied by 20, I guess. Well, I'm not good in math, so let me just better, so also I need to stringify this. Let me just print this self parameters, so print self param start. So what I want to get in return like 0, 20, 40, 60, etc. So that's what I'm supposed to get in return. Let's see what I got actually. Yeah, exactly. So 0, 20, 40, 60. So starting from index 0, and by default it loads like this 19 entries, then starting from index 20 with yet another 19 entries, or maybe even 20 entries, but doesn't matter. So just these are the starting indexes of where we're starting to look at the data basically. So now we can use so as far as we did update our parameters, so now every time the data should be different. So I would also like to get rid of this CSV again, and I hold my breath, and now I hope to scrape 3 pages. Yeah, it was really fast basically. So let's have a look at books.csv. Now we have much more data. So this is literally the same as if I did click that load more similar PDF button like a couple of times, well, 3 times maybe, because it's slightly different in the GUI, so it's more like automated here within within the Python SCRAPY framework. Okay, so I'm just wondering why it's so slow. Oh, it's probably I need to click OK somewhere, or okay, let me run this again. Okay, so now I should have way more data. So yeah, now it's already kind of 74, well, 73 without the headers. So literally the same. So we got the title, we got the URL. This also takes place basically, and then we go for these pages, year, size, downloads, descriptions, thumbnails, things like that. So if you want to scrape more, you can just simply increase this number. So I don't know what's the limit there, so to be honest, I have no idea what is the limit in particular, so just feel free to use the trial and error method to discover that basically, because if I could only have a number of found results, I could have calculated that, but I don't see one. Okay guys, and before I finish this tutorial, let me just show you one little thing here. So if you would be scraping this pdfdrive.com one day yourselves, and if you see, if you go to this initial page and scroll down, and again like trying to load more files, please note this is a way more different compared to what we've just done in this tutorial. And see, like it uses this it uses a different request URL, and the method is also different. You see, this is the get request. So instead of FormData, it has this string query parameters, and this is really similar, because so the difference here would be you just provide the different URL. Instead of this parameters, you just use the string query parameters, and instead of form request, you just yield the regular SCRAPY request, and probably using the URL lib to parse these parameters as well. So well, I did that sort of scrapers really numerous times on this channel, so it's nothing new there. And again, if I have a look at the response, it's kind of pretty similar, so kind of similar, but again, like it's not using the post method but instead the get method. So this is quite a bit different story here. So you can leave this scraping this kind of data as an exercise for you guys, but obviously if you want just the similar books, you just feel free to search the particular book and then just using this download more similar books, and respectively having this like post request responses containing this nicely formatted HTML. So I guess I hope you learned something interesting out of this tutorial. Well, so this is it from my side, guys. Learn web scraping, land your freelancing jobs, everything gonna be fine. So until next time, and take care.